In the heart of England's most sacred tradition, something suddenly broke. It wasn't a goal that sent shockwaves through the crowd. It was a name. Thousands of football fans, mid-match, turned their voices toward politics. Not in celebration, not in support, but with a blunt, unmistakable insult aimed straight at Keir Starmer. No one was talking tactics or referees. This felt different. It wasn't rowdy banter or a quick outburst. It was controlled anger released in the one space still free from spin and filters. People speak honestly when emotion takes over. Football didn't pause for politics, it crashed straight into it. So when tens of thousands lifted their voices and threw an unfiltered message at Starmer, it wasn't about being disrespectful. It was about being honest. That raw moment hit harder than any soundbite in Parliament ever could. Because when lifelong Labour voters, people who once believed, once hoped, start shouting anger at their own leader, it's not just frustration. It's a sign that something is breaking, something beyond politics, beyond party lines. It's trust slipping away. Not long ago, Labour felt alive. Say what you will about Jeremy Corbyn, but the movement had energy, driven by young activists, union workers and everyday people hungry for change. Then came Starmer, and instead of fueling that fire, he smothered it with slogans and safe talking points. The soul was traded for strategy. He arrived promising unity. He sold himself as the grown-up in the room. But what Britain got was an empty suit at a podium, delivering lines shaped by PR teams and focus groups. The rallies faded, the energy drained away. In their place came flat speeches, billionaire donors and slogans that sound like they belong on a cereal box. This wasn't progress, it was erasure. The same working-class voices that once roared for Labour are now turning away in the most public way possible. Not because they've switched to the Tories, but because they feel betrayed. A man who once knocked on their doors asking for trust is now seen as someone who traded it for boardroom approval. That chant echoing through the stadiums isn't just a swear word. It's grief. It's betrayal, finally given a voice. Starmer said he would lead. But to the fans in the stands, he's no leader. He's an outsider in a tailored suit, selling empathy he doesn't feel for a struggle he's never lived. Starmer wants to look relatable, but the harder he tries, the more out of touch he seems. His everyman act doesn't land because people can sense the script. He doesn't joke, doesn't banter, doesn't create any real warmth. Watching him try to connect with everyday voters feels like watching a tax lawyer attempt stand-up comedy. It's awkward, stiff, and completely off-key. He speaks in policy language while the country speaks in pubs. He shows up at football matches, but never feels the tension. He tweets about the working class, but can't seem to hold a real conversation with them. His words sound polished, but empty, like a speech edited a dozen times and handed to someone who doesn't even believe it. And that's why the chant hits so hard. Not because of the word itself, but because of what it exposed. People aren't just tired, they're disconnected. They see through the act. They know when someone is pretending, and they can tell when a man walks into their space trying to blend in with a borrowed tone and a practiced frown. Starmer didn't just lose their vote, he lost their respect. And once that's gone, no slogan can bring it back. The chant didn't stay in the stadium. Within hours, it was everywhere, clipped, shared, and spread across TikTok, X, and Instagram. It reached more ears than any carefully planned Labour ad ever could. The media tried to play it down. Some acted like it never happened. Others brushed it off as normal rowdy fan behaviour. But fans know exactly what they're doing. This wasn't about football. It was about frustration, raw, unfiltered, and finally too loud to ignore. And as Starmer's team rushed to distance themselves, to spin it, to pretend it was all just crude noise, they missed the point completely. Every time someone tries to bury it, it only gets louder, because when the press filters out people's anger, the people find their own megaphone. This wasn't a PR disaster, it was a reckoning. And no matter how many press teams try to control it, they can't contain something this raw. Starmer's handlers may want this moment to disappear, but it's already burned into the public memory. A leader who doesn't inspire, doesn't fight, and doesn't listen might expect silence. But what Starmer got instead was a roar. Not from journalists, not from MPs, but from the very crowd he thought he could impress with a staged appearance. Starmer's fall from grace didn't happen overnight. It came through promises, bold ones repeated again and again, then quietly dropped. He said he'd back workers, then turned on the unions. He claimed to stand up for the vulnerable, then supported policies that left them worse off. Time after time he said one thing and did another, and voters noticed. You can't say you're with the people while cracking down on strikes. You can't promise fairness and then stay silent as disabled citizens fight for basic dignity. And you can't build trust when your moral compass shifts with the polling numbers. So when fans chant, it's not about shock value, it's about exhaustion. It's years of frustration boiling over from watching a man pretend to care while delivering more of the same. That chant was their way of saying, "We gave you a chance. You failed, and we won't forget it." For a politician who built his image on being careful, calculated and clean, this moment cuts deep. Because no media training can teach you how to win back people who feel betrayed. And no leader survives once the punchlines start writing themselves. What's happening on the terraces isn't chaos, it's clarity. In a country where Parliament feels distant and debate shows feel staged, football crowds have become the last honest jury. No spin doctors, no PR filters, just the raw voice of the people answering those who stopped listening. He walked into that arena with a polished image and walked out with a shattered illusion. He's used to spaces where questions are screened and backlash can be managed. But a stadium doesn't work that way. There's no moderator, no earpiece, no staged applause, just thousands of voices saying exactly what they think. And here's the uncomfortable truth. This won't be the last time. That chant has momentum. It's not fading away. It will slip into live debates, spill into campaign events, interrupt speeches, and hijack interviews, because it's no longer just a chant. It's a signal. A warning that people are done waiting to be spoken for. They're speaking for themselves, loudly, publicly, and with no interest in being polite. Starr may be well rehearsed, but what's coming next is completely unscripted. This moment has already crossed a line. Most political moments never become part of culture, but this one has. You won't hear it in official speeches or party leaflets, but you'll see it written on pub walls, shared in WhatsApp groups, and shouted at concerts. It's becoming shorthand, a rallying cry, a meme with bite, a middle finger to everything polished, scripted, and hollow in modern politics. Just like Let's Go Brandon became a coded protest in the US, this chant is quickly turning into Britain's own unofficial slogan of anger. A crude word, yes, but behind it is a clear message. People are tired of fake leadership. They don't want photo ops. They want real passion. They don't want empty slogans. They want someone who feels the country's pain. Someone who looks like they've spent more time standing in a Greggs queue than sitting in a glass boardroom. And right now, the gap between Starr and the people he claims to represent feels too wide to close. The chant may be rough, but it's alive. It's how a frustrated public finds its voice in a country where those in charge no longer seem to listen. This isn't rebellion for the sake of it. It's not a planned move by political rivals. It runs deeper than that. This is the sound of a nation burned out. Years of economic decline, broken promises, and leaders treating politics like a branding exercise have left people exhausted. They've watched the cost of living soar while wages stay frozen, services collapse while taxes rise, and party leaders smile while nothing changes. And now, their patience has run out. The chant wasn't planned. It wasn't practiced. It erupted. It was the collective sigh of a country that's been holding it in for too long. It's what people shout when they've reached the end of their rope, when they feel ignored, mocked, and taken for granted. It isn't polite, because nothing in the past few years has been polite. And Starmer's response? Denial, deflection, Business, as usual. But people aren't waiting for permission anymore. The respect they once had for politicians like him is gone. What's left is mockery. And that's not something you can fix with a speech, because once a nation stops laughing with its leaders and starts laughing at them, the fall from power is already happening. The question now echoes across the country. How many second chances does a leader get before people stop calling it leadership? Starmer came in with a clean slate. He wasn't Johnson. He wasn't Corbyn. For a while, that was enough. But people wanted more than just a neutral face. They expected action, vision, and backbone. Instead, they got someone who vanishes when it matters most, who nods to working-class struggles while quietly supporting policies that hurt them, who talks about fairness but always chooses comfort and caution. And now the mask is slipping. The chant wasn't just an insult. It was an audit, a public reckoning of promises broken, trust betrayed, and a party that feels more like a brand than a movement. You can't lead a tired nation with tidy speeches and tailored suits. People want conviction, not calibration. They want someone who shows up, understands, and fights. Starmer may still hold the microphone in Parliament, but out here, the people are taking it back, one chant at a time. Here, Starmer isn't facing a political problem, he's facing a cultural one. That chant echoing through the stadium wasn't scripted by a campaign or planted by spin doctors. It came from ordinary people at their breaking point. Fans who don't write op-eds or join panels, but who see through the act faster than any focus group ever could. You can't fake fire. You can't lead a country that no longer believes you feel anything at all. The stadium gave Starmer a glimpse of what's coming. Once that chant spreads to town halls, high streets and debates, it's unstoppable. That word may never appear in an election ad, but it will be whispered in interviews, shouted in pubs, and felt in voting booths where people decide quietly. He won't be undone by a rival policy. He'll be undone by the gut feeling spreading fast that this polished, planned man was never really on their side. So here's the question. How many times does a leader have to fail before the crowd takes the mic away? Let us know in the comments, and if you want more raw, fearless breakdowns of what's really happening in British politics, like, share and subscribe. No filters, no favourites, just the truth, loud and uncut.